Shopify Masters is powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters.
They're not just buying it because they like it. It's almost like a test.
Hey, my name is Felix. I'm the host of Shopify Masters. Each week, we learn the keys to success from e-commerce experts and entrepreneurs like you. In this episode, you'll learn the key points to include in a product description, how to justify your product's prices, especially if they are higher than average, and how to encourage upsells and cross-sells to your customers. Today, I'm joined by Jacob and Thomasina from Lavish Shoestring. Lavish Shoestring is the largest online supplier of beautiful vintage and antique homewares, and was started in 2012 and based out of Oxford. Welcome, Jacob and Thomasina.
Hello.
Hi, Felix.
Yeah, so excited to have the both of you on. So tell us a bit more about the business that you run and what exactly do you sell?
We sell antique, vintage, and good quality second-hand homewares. So it's basically all the categories like tableware, tea categories, things that use for wine parties and so on. So it's everything that you can use, for dining at home. These are items in good condition. They're usable, and we sell to a really wide audience. Traditionally, these things are sold to sort of antique collectors or sort of antique buyers, but we bring it to a really wide audience, not necessarily to people who go to auction houses, but just people who want unusual, beautiful, well-made items for the home.
Now, you both obviously saw that there was room in the market for you guys to come in and, like you're saying, bring these products that were typically not available or to the general public to now be very accessible, because they obviously can go to your site and buy a lot of these products. So where did you see this? How did you see that there was a business to be started in this area?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, this isn't the first foray into selling homewares that we've done before. I mean, we did it kind of part-time for many years. And we realized that there was a larger market or an audience out there for these kinds of products. I have a background in antiques, but when Jacob and I married 13 years ago, I had a bit of a break from working. And some of the companies that he worked for, they would have budgets for gifts for employees, like when they got married, or corporate gifts and things like that. And they were always asking me, Thomasina, could you go and find something really interesting, to give for a gift? And I would always find these wonderful things. I would usually come under budget from the money that they'd allocated for these things. And everybody loved the things that I bought. And Jacob finally said to me, I know you've had a bit of a break from being in antiques, and I really think you should let me build you a website, and you can sell worldwide and 24 hours a day, and sell this to lots of people who maybe are not antique collectors. They're probably, we thought about it. We thought the problem with antiques is that as soon as younger people hear that word, they think, oh, wow, it's got to be expensive because it's old. And most of these things are not expensive, even though they're old, because they were manufactured, say, during the late Georgian and the Victorian era. And this is the era of, the industrial age, and things were mass produced. So there is a lot of it out there. And it's well made. They're beautiful designs. They're unusual, fantastic colors, patterns. And probably a lot of the new products that are made today are copies of these things. And so Jacob and I both thought that we should really concentrate on bringing it to a younger audience who, when you have your first job, you're out of university, you're furnishing your first flat or your first home, instead of going to, the department store or something like that, you want something unusual. But because you're in your first job, you don't have time to go shopping. Because usually, you're working long hours in your first job because you're trying to make a really good impression and you're having to travel home, whether it's on the train or whatever. And really, that's the only time you're able to buy, because the weekends you might spend going to a party or something with your friends, or you're visiting your parents or something like that. And you don't have time to go out and shop for things for your home, let alone, clothing and things like that. So most people are buying online. And so we thought we want to, make antiques and vintage items accessible for younger people. So build a website that would be easy to navigate and easy for them to look at it on their phone or their iPad or whatever. When they're going into work, and and then they can buy products, and it's really bringing it to a younger audience who can't go to auctions during the week or don't have time and don't know anything about them. Oh, Jacob's putting his finger up. He wants to interject and say something about this as well. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. But I also want to focus on something that is probably not very obvious. You see, Felix, to buy antiques or to shop for antiques and sort of old items, typically you need knowledge. You need to know what you're doing, because it's not something that you can shop around. Sort of, for example, you're looking at an old teapot, a 19th century teapot. You don't really know what it is. You're being asked to spend money. And you need to think what it is. You really need to know what you're looking at. You can't easily compare prices, because it's not an item that is being sold by sort of all the department stores, and you can just shop around and shop online and compare the prices and styles and choose whatever is the most appropriate for you. So most of these things they're different, and they're sort of one-offs. So really you need to know what you're doing. And if you are shopping on a marketplace, for example, well-known eBay. So again, you really need to know what is it that you're buying. You either rely on the description of a seller. Now, if it's a reputable dealer, it's an old-fashioned dealer, and they know what they're doing, yes, you can rely on them. But in that case, sort of the price will be typically higher, because they do charge for the expertise. Or really, you need to know what you're doing. So really, we wanted to demystify this market and to bring it to wider audience, and to make shopping for these old items really in the same way as you shop for really anything else online, and then really to demystify it.
Now, you mentioned something I want to touch on. Is that there is difficulty whenever any entrepreneur is essentially finding and reselling a product, but you have even, I think, a bigger challenge in that you are looking for products to sell that are no longer being produced. What kind of unique challenges come with having to find and stock this kind of inventory?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the first one asking. When we went a few years ago to raise money. So this was the first question we were asked by all investors, because they said, you tell me that you can be the biggest shop and you can have the numbers you're telling us about. How on earth can you source 10,000 teapots and 1,000 decanters, because it's not a factory. You can't come to a factory and say, you're not dealing in flip-flops. You just can't order it in one place. So it is a challenge. But first of all, what you have to realize is that this is a big market. This is a massive market, because we're talking about not one-off items, but of the past. We probably have at any given time items from the past 250 years, and a lot has been made in the past 250 years. They were mass-produced. I mean, the mass production comes in Victorian times. We're talking about 19th century Industrial Revolution. So there are a lot of these items. The only difference is that they are dispersed in different places. But this is a really, really big market. And you have, there are many different sourcing places. We built up a structure of supply. And I will not reveal too much. Sure. How we source these items, but we source them in different ways. And one of the main sources is we have suppliers who are not our workers, but actually bring these items to us, because this is a very, very big market. And because it's not a very transparent market to sort of everyday shoppers, so there is a perception that these items are really unique and it's very difficult to find them. But it's a very, very big market. And we are located in Britain. Historically, this is one of the big centers for these items. And Thomasina hasn't mentioned, but one of the things that she has done is she traded in antiques all her life, and she shipped containers all around the world, from Britain, from Europe, with these items. So it is a big market. The challenge was to create a steady supply of these items. And this is one of the things that we are solving in this market, because it's a very disjointed, it's a very fragmented market, both in supply and in sales. And so this is one of the things that we are solving. And we're probably not your traditional merchant in that sense, because yes, you see one of our sort of the retail side of our business is on Shopify, and it's all well and good. We have about sort of depends on the times, but we have anywhere between 3,500 to sort of 5,000 items in stock, and it is growing now. And obviously, with the season, it grows. Sort of Christmas sales, the stock will be growing.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to mention 3,500 to 5,000 products, and another challenge with the industry or the business model that you have is that because these are all essentially one-off products, you have to create new product pages and new photos every time, right? It's not scalable like in a business where you are mass producing an item. You only have to have one product page and one image, and you can sell a bunch of them. You have to create a new one for essentially every time you want to sell a new product. Now, how do you manage all of this so that you aren't spending all day just creating photos or taking photos and creating product pages?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So this is you came to the core product of Lavish Restraint. So in reality, we're actually a technology company, sort of behind the scenes. Because we have developed a tool that allows us to catalog and handle these items on a massive scale. So I'll give you an example. If an auction house, we have many auction houses in Britain, I mean, many in the States as well. So if you're taking a small regional auction house, they probably have a sale every 2 weeks. We're talking about household items, old household items, antique items. They have a sale every couple weeks. For the sake of an argument, let's say they have 1,000 items in the sale. So to catalog those items, it depends on what is the level of cataloging that they're doing, sort of description and photography. They need a small team of people, and all they can produce is 2,000 items a month. It's probably a team of probably 10 people. So we can scale. I mean, we build a tool that scales this really exponentially. I mean, we can handle endless amounts of items. We know what are the resources we need, and what we do is we compile a massive database, and we use artificial intelligence in cataloging these items. So if you look at our site, you can actually see that every single item is presented in a uniform way. So whether you're looking, for example, take I love this category of decanters, wine decanters, whiskey decanters. So if you look at decanters, every single decanter is actually cataloged in a similar way. They're all different. Characteristics are different. They're all of different age, of different price, different technique, but they're cataloged in the same way. And most of the text that you see there is actually machine generated based on our database and using our artificial intelligence. So that is actually our core product, because that's what allows us to scale up this business. In terms of photography,
because otherwise you couldn't, and that's why nobody's done it before. If you think about looking at websites online, dealers, shops, even like antique collectors and things that have websites, it's very difficult for them to get that amount of stock and get it online and cataloging it, let alone going out and buying it. It's impossible to do, unless you had something like what we have that we've developed.
So what we do produce uniquely for each item is, at this moment at least, is photography, because most of these items are slightly different. Even they are mass produced, even though we quite often get identical items from the same manufacturer, from the same date, same factory. But we still photograph every single item individually. And that's simply because everyone has a different degree of wear and sort of looks slightly different, because most of them, they are handmade or with a high degree of manual labor. So the
decoration.
Yeah, so the photography is unique. But once again, we have a system sort of that we can handle quite large amounts of photography, and further, photography as well can be automated. But it's the description and the recognition of what is it we have that is automated. And because we reuse these templates, so that's how we can scale up the process. Quite often we have we actually do not create a new product, so the new product pages. We simply update the inventory, and we know that because we have everything on records, and everything is kept in history. Mm-hmm. But yes, you are right. There is no way around it. We are creating new products all the time, and we do keep the sold out products. We do keep on the site. We have to do a fair degree of modification to Shopify, obviously, with our team. But we do keep the sold out products on record. They're not visible on the front end, but we do use that on the back end. Mm-hmm. I'll explain later how we use it.
Got it. Yeah, I'm looking at least one of the decanters now, looking at the product description, and it certainly does seem like it's written by a human and not by AI. And I think that this is very interesting for a lot of store owners, because I believe one of the most painful parts for store owners is creating the product pages, especially if you have a large SKU, if you have a lot of SKUs or you have a large catalog. So much so that I often see store owners that are reselling products that they will just copy the manufacturer's description because they don't want to go through the process, the often painful process of writing their own product descriptions. So tell us, how does it get used? Like, what are the inputs into this AI that is required to produce essentially a product page that's ready to go?
So part of it, do forgive me if I don't tell you all the things, because it's actually our secret, and that's our core product. But essentially, we have a massive database which is off Shopify. It's running our backend separate from Shopify, and this is where we catalog all the products. And there is a certain way of doing these things. There is an image recognition involved. And to give a very simple example, to give a very simple example, we start with certain parameters for every product, and even though to people who look at these items and they look really different, if you look at a teapot, they say, well, one teapot is ceramic, one teapot is silver plated, another one is probably glass, and another one is silver. They look so different, but in reality, it's a teapot. It's a teapot and has certain characteristics, and it is used for the same purpose. So we start for every product, we start with certain parameters. And as we start inputting these parameters, our systems basically completes everything else. That's a simplistic explanation of it. And because there is an image recognition involved, and because we photograph every single item in the same way, for example, if we're talking about plates, so every plate is photographed in the same way. So for our system, it's quite easy to pick up what is what. And obviously, the bigger the database is, the easier it is for us to catalog these items.
Got it.
And so everything is sitting in that database. And from there, we connect it to our different platforms. Shopify is the obvious one. So we push it there. But when we started, we actually started not on Shopify. Our first sales were on marketplaces. That's probably like many other merchants start, because this is the easiest way, and this is the sort of the simplest way of getting traction and getting your first customer. So again, we just plug this database into different marketplaces and distributed all our products there. But just to touch on what you said, we thought, because we have quite a long experience of writing about products, and when we started with a few years ago, we thought, well, we just need to give so much more information about every product, and we wrote stories, really, really long stories. And then pretty fast we realized that this story about a product can become boring. I mean, there is a fine line. You need to give all the information about the product, obviously, but at some point it can become boring and irrelevant. Some people like it. Some shoppers will like it, and they will read and they will probably ask questions. But you need to find that fine line about writing about every product. And once again, it cannot be too mechanical. Like you say, taking just the manufacturer's description. I don't think that's right, because then what kind of value do you give
to the product
to the product and to your user? You need to find that really sort of sweet middle where you do add value in your description and show obviously the product from the best.
Right. So can you talk about this a little bit more? I think because you have so much experience creating these product descriptions, and because you need to have essentially some kind of template that you work off of, I'm sure you guys spend a lot of time understanding what are the key things that need to be included in every single product description. Can you give us some tips on that? Like, what are some key things that you recommend store owners include in their product description to make it and improve and to offer value in the product page?
I would start definitely with images. Images is a really, really central part. And once again, I can talk about our types of products, but because we trade in such a variety of products, homewares, images, good images is basically a must. You can't do without that. And in fact, that actually, when we first started with Shopify, that dictated to us which template we use. And we chose a template. It was, I don't remember how much it cost, but it was one of the, not the free, but one of the basic templates that we paid for, that basically had the biggest images. Everything was the product page, and the collection pages, they were focused on images. Because the better images you give to your customers, and especially with our products that are they're not brand new, give your customer to understand your product. And what we also realized is that you cannot, at least in our case, you cannot provide too many pictures. Just show the products from all sides, because we also realize that if you do not show something, then the users think, well, something is wrong. Why didn't they show this angle? And they will ask a question. Because if you show the product from all the sides and the images are really beautiful, and maybe you show your products in the context to judge scale, to judge color palette as well, that will reduce the amount of questions your customers will ask.
Right, because you clearly have nothing to hide if you're showing all angles of the products.
Definitely,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
And that actually gives also a degree of confidence to your user, to the shopper. They again, I mean, this is a proven thing. Take our example. we deal in items that sometimes are broken. They're not perfect. I mean, by definition, if we sell an item which is 100 years old, it cannot be a perfect item. So it has been used, even though it was sitting on somebody's shelves for 100 years, it still has a degree of wear. And we are not ashamed about that. I mean, we show all these things, and the customer appreciates that. They actually want to see all these things. You have nothing to hide. It's absolutely perfectly clear what they are looking at, what they are buying, and essentially what they will get. Because, I mean, you can always say, well, you can provide all these communication tools, chat and Facebook chat and whatever for them to communicate with you. That's really unnecessary, because not everyone will use it. And you have just you have a customer on the product page for, let's say, for a split of a second, and they want to make a decision. They just want to understand what is it they're dealing with. And if you give them that information, it's priceless. And it's not, if you're taking one image, you can take two images. It's not, it doesn't take too much time, at least in our case. But that will add a lot.
Right. So you're almost saying that if the customer has to reach out to you, then it's probably a failure on the product page, that the product page hasn't conveyed or explained or demonstrated the product enough that they no longer have questions, that they now still have questions, and now they're reaching out to you.
Definitely. It's either that or we fail to explain some sort of service, for example, shipping. Or if they, that's sort of done. Would be good if they want something really, really fast and they have a question about really fast delivery. But yes, if they are reaching to us, and they're asking about the product, then it means something went wrong. Because the product, between the images and the description, it should be really enough to understand what this product is. And actually, I mean, we have a very long history of record sort of trial and error, and we have very little communication from customers asking about the products. I mean, we reached the point where whatever we are doing is pretty clear, is pretty enough for the customer. Plus, if you look at our site, I mean, the description is uniform. We cover sort of the set points for every product, whether it's a condition, whether it's the color, the size, and so on. But also anyone who wants to read a bit more, we give different snippets. So we have more content on the product page and around the site, and definitely on our blog we have a wiki section where they can actually read a bit in depth about the products, whether they want to understand what this, we're talking about a certain style, so what that style is, what that period is, so that we have that information in text for the more interested customers as well.
Right. I like that there is uniformity between all of the product descriptions, because you are almost training and coaching the customer to understand how can they get to the information they care about as quickly as possible. If they come to your page and they always see there's a section about the condition of the product, about the size right underneath it, there's a style note, and it's a very clear breakdown of what they can expect from each different section. It makes it a lot easier for them to look for that when they go to the next product. So I think that that's something that I haven't seen too much in other stores, but I certainly, as a consumer, as a browser of your site, I definitely feel that reduces the friction when I want to get to information.
We always, because we started as a bootstrapped startup, and we looked at the big guys and we learned from the big guys. So I always looked at Wikipedia. I mean, why Wikipedia is so popular? It's not necessarily because it's always correct, but it's purely, I mean, in my belief, it's purely because it's familiar. It doesn't matter what you're searching about, what terms you're searching and reading about. You will know that the structure of the page is the same, and the information will be familiar, will be given to in a familiar way, and that's why it's so.
I think that's also a relief for, I think, a lot of store owners, because it means that you don't have to get too creative all the time you actually don't want to get too creative with the structure, at least, of your product description. You want to have some kind of structure to it, and then come in and fill in the parts, and then maybe in those parts you can get creative, but you shouldn't have to reinvent the product page every single time you create a new product.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about something you mentioned earlier, which was that I think it was Thomasina that you mentioned that the customer cannot compare prices because of the nature of the products that you're selling. Do you find that this is a good thing or a bad thing for the business that there is a limit on how many products they can essentially compare because they probably can't find this product that you have on your site anywhere else?
That's a good question. Well, it depends on the customer for one. I mean, if you're online buying antiques, you either have them in your home, you grew up with them, you understand them. Maybe it's a hobby. You go out on the weekends and you go antiquing. What was that used to be on the Frasier program? Antiquing is not a verb. Well, a lot of people do it as a hobby. So you've got that kind of person, and they know what they're looking at in a shop. They're familiar with the way auctions work and antique fairs or antique markets and things like that. But then you have other types of people who, like I was saying earlier, because of the hours they work and family commitments and things like that, doing those kinds of things aren't really as accessible. And, if you look in magazines, home interior magazines, all of them, Homes and Garden, Veranda, just all kinds of magazines, you find all these room settings. And so people are mixing contemporary things with antique and vintage. And so people are wanting these products, but they don't know where to get them, and so that's why, we thought about, especially on our website, having diverse products, all different price levels, all different periods, and all different styles, so that there would be something there for anybody. And say when we started, we really did think about young people and the budgets that everyone lives on today. And so, it was me insisting more than Jacob that, we have to have something on there that someone can buy for $12. If you're starting out buying and you've never bought an antique in your life, but say you're a girl and you want to have a tea party and everyone's doing vintage tea parties and all that, there had to be something on there that, your first thing that you bought, you could buy very inexpensively, and then you would get that, and that would give you the confidence then to buy again. So you could buy jam spoons for us for £6, and you could buy a cup and saucer for 12, and then we still sell things for thousands as well. So there's something for everybody.
I see. So even though they cannot compare on price with other...
Comparing price, I'll get to that. I know I'm a bit long-winded. Comparing on price, that's a difficult thing too, because even for me as I'm the wholesale buyer, even if I'm looking at, say a blue willow meat platter, different places where I might go to buy them, they're all different price ranges for me to buy as well. And I'm the one with the knowledge, so I discern whether I should pay that price for it or it's too expensive and I reject it and I don't buy it. And I believe that's the same for a customer, but I think it's much more difficult for the retail customer because you have all these diverse places to buy from. Whether it's like I said earlier, an antique fair, a Sunday market, a shop, online, even say you're. Oh, sorry. Yes, Jacob.
No, I just want to. I mean, that's what Thomasina says is right, but it's actually the pricing is part of demystifying this market. This was our task, to demystify this market. And the pricing is essential part of it. First of all, we cannot shock a customer with some sort of outrageous prices, and the prices should be understandable to our customers. So that's why we try. I mean, we have a certain pricing technique. So when users look at these items, even though they cannot find exactly the same item elsewhere, I mean, some of them they will be able to find because it's quite easy, but most of these items they won't be able. Still, the price should be comparable to new items, for example. So if anyone who is looking again at the teapot, they roughly understand what the price of a teapot should be. And of course, a teapot can have different price tiers. And the more expensive it becomes, we are trying to explain what it is. So, for example, if it's a sterling silver teapot, so yes, people will understand that it will cost a bit more. But if it's just a ceramic teapot, it should make sense. The price should make sense to them, even without going and comparing, looking for exactly the same teapot elsewhere.
I want to touch on this. I like this point that you made, which is that as a product becomes more expensive, especially compared to other products that are like it, you need to spend more time to explain why it's going to cost more. Can you say a little bit more about this? Like, what are some ways that you demonstrate why a product is going to cost more than something that you can maybe buy new that is not an antique?
Yep, definitely. I mean, the obvious part of it is the rarity. If the product is rare and it's really, you can't find easily another one like that or very, very similar, then it justifies the price. So yeah, you need to explain that it's a rare product. And and again, it's not enough just to say, okay, it's a rare product, unusual. You probably need to explain why it is a rare product and why it is unusual. In our case, it usually manifests in design. The design is quite unusual, and if we highlight that, and sort of if you're a design savvy and you understand styles and sort of you have a good eye, so you will see, yes, it's quite an unusual pattern or unusual design. It looks nice. Fashion plays a lot. It's an important factor because different things become fashionable, different times, and typically fashionable items they command a premium price. So you can point out that. I mean, the simple things is the material. It's a rare material. It's an expensive material, commodity like silver, for example. That's pretty simple. People understand it's more expensive than just, let's say, ceramic. If it's if I'm making a parallel comparison with contemporary items, so designer items, I mean, there are also, so to speak, designer items in antiques. With antiques, they're simply really well-respected makers. If you're talking about Wedgwood, for example, old Wedgwood dinnerware, it will command a premium because it's a really, really good manufacturer. And a good manufacturer, it's a really, really good good material, and the execution of the items. So you need to expand a little bit and explain to the customers, but once again, not to be heavy-handed, because there is I believe there is a fine line. If you start preaching about the item, it becomes really the item can become really heavy, and you can scare away the customers. But you should give, if you give consistently for all these items, consistent information and the snippets of information, and where appropriate, you expand and you explain a bit more, then it's absolutely fine. I mean, don't think about, people who shop, your users, they're clever people. I mean, they shouldn't be spoon-fed all this information. So just as long as you give them the information consistently, truthfully and openly, they will make their decision. They will understand, and especially if it is consistent. They've seen that they're looking they're shopping for a teapot, and they've looked at 30 teapots on your site. If the information between these 30 teapots is consistent, even though the pricing is very different, they will understand the reason behind that.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you find that your customers, they know exactly what they're looking for, or are they usually browsing and then discovering a product that they want?
I think it's a bit of both. They certainly know some sort of initial parameter. It's typically categories of your, again, product category that they're looking for. Or on the other hand, it can be it's really popular. For example, blue and white. I mean, everyone knows blue and white. It's been around for a couple hundred years or more. So they come from that search. And but once they see the variety of these products, so for example, in that category or in that pattern, they also may discover. Yes, of course, they will discover other products and they will buy other products. Typically, with us, people who buy, we do see a pattern in a purchase. It's we routinely have people who buy several products at a time. So there is a pattern. There is also a pattern with our return customers that they're sort of coming back for a certain theme of items. So I think it's a bit of both. People do know what they are looking for. If you give them a variety, an easy variety, they will also shop for other things.
Got it. Now, does your marketing change, or what have you learned or realized about your marketing to attract more of the customers that are buying multiple products, or the higher basket value, or getting customers that are returning? Are there different ways to market to, or have you learned different ways to market to reach more of those types of customers?
The repeat customers specifically, or new customers?
I guess new customers that are coming in and buying a lot from you from the first time. We can start there.
People who buy a lot to begin with, they buy for a need. For example, I mean, it's for example, they buy for a party. Okay, so and if we definitely see either a theme that they're buying, sort of certain pattern, the same pattern of items, or the same period, or the same product. So, for example, very recently was an order we fulfilled to London of many decanters. So obviously, in that case, they probably having a party. And if it's the same style, again, they can have a party and they're setting up a table. So there is a theme. It's very rare to find that someone is buying a tea set and the chest of drawers. These are quite different.
Now, what effective ways have you found to try to encourage this, to essentially upsell them? I mean, let's say they come and they buy a tea cup. How do you encourage them to check out more products that they can buy that are related to the original purchase?
We show them items that both. We don't do it right now in browsing. We haven't implemented it yet because we switched to this. We had a change in the site recently. But we show them items that are they complement whatever they purchased. So, for example, if you ordered plates, there are many other things that can go with plates. If you need cutlery, if you need serving dishes, and so on. And again, they're in the same style or in the similar styles, in the similar fashion. Emailing to the customer immediately after the order really works well, because before the order is shipped, they can actually come back and add some more items that they may not have discovered while browsing. It's all around complementing whatever they purchased in style, in our case, in style, and not so much functionality, because if they bought a set of plates, there is no point to give them another set of plates, but it's in the style. And luckily with us, we have, even though these products are fairly unique, we always have a complementing style to whatever they purchased. That's the main thing. Really good, successful email campaign, for example, for us, it's a weekly new arrivals, because we have fresh stock coming in all the time. So that works very well on our repeat customers. They just want sort of every Friday, they want to see what's new in stock, and they do that. So that works really well.
Right. New products are always a great excuse to reach out to your customer.
Absolutely. We have a very low unsubscribe rate, because people really want to see. I mean, not necessarily they'll click immediately and they'll go to your site. We just give them a sample of what's new in stock, and we typically try to keep it to a theme. It's either a holiday theme or a theme of products, a color, style, period, and so on. And they just want to keep to be connected. In our case, there is a strong role to seasonality, for example. So we're coming into winter holidays now. So there will be really, really sharp switch to in types of products that people will be buying with us. So we'll obviously target those products more. We'll keep stocks with these products, and we'll also promote these products more heavily, because simply this is what people are looking for in this period.
Also, you asked about how do you upscale people, say the first time purchaser, someone who bought a teacup and saucer. How do you get them to buy more expensive items from you? I think they do that themselves, because a lot of the people who buy small items from us are really the people who are first-time antique and vintage buyers, and they had never thought of buying something like that because they had always bought new. And so when they buy that first thing, that first teacup and saucer, they're not just buying it because they like it. It's almost like a test to see when it arrives, is it as nice as it looked in the photograph? Is it as nice a quality that I expected, like I would expect from a new product? And all of that. So it's kind of a test purchase. And then once they're confident that it arrived safely, it wasn't broken, it was better looking even than the photograph. We get lots of, we have thousands of positive comments from first-time buyers who say, oh, I never thought of buying antique before, and I've always been afraid because I thought it was expensive, and this looked really pretty, and then I thought it wouldn't be as nice when it arrived, but it was actually better, and I really like it, and I'll buy again. And then once they feel confident with that small purchase, we see them, they become our regular customer, and they choose bigger items, and slowly they do start getting into more expensive things, because then they're confident. They're confident in the product. They were confident in us and our description and everything. And that's just the way it's happened. We see a pattern in it.
That's a great point. I think that what you're getting at is that even if you are selling your flagship product and it's a very expensive product, or at least prohibitively expensive for a first-time buyer, it's important to have essentially an entry-level product that you're selling, so that you can begin this new type of relationship with the person visiting your site. They're no longer just a visitor. Now they're a customer, and they're doing business with you in a very low risk way by buying a low cost, entry level product from you. And then once you deliver on the promise of the product, the promise of the service, then they can trust doing business with you, and then they might scale up their spending with you from there. I think this is a point that is really important, because a lot of times store owners would think that the relationship essentially kind of ends right on that sale, between showing them an ad or hitting them with an email and then getting them to buy maybe the main product that you're advertising. But there's a step in there that I think is really important, especially for new stores or stores that maybe don't have a lot of reputation yet or not a lot of reviews yet. You need to make it very low risk for that first time customer to do business with you, so they can build that trust and eventually return and buy more from you. And it sounds like your business is built a lot on that, because there are people that aren't familiar, aren't sure how to buy antiques online, and by offering a lower cost entry level product, they can begin down that journey. And I think that that's a great approach to teaching people about a new industry, teaching people about a new way to buy products.
You're absolutely right, and I can actually take it one step further. When we started, we didn't have a lot of stock. And we were completely, let's say, novices, and we didn't have a lot of money to start, shipping free products or anything like that. But the relationship is essential, and I think if you can establish yourself as an authority in your field, whether it's a small field, a niche one, or a big one, you need to be some sort of authority for your customers. Because if you're not an authority and they need something, they'll go to some mass-produced marketplace, and they'll get that item as cheap as possible there. You need to produce authority, and if you can give your customers something that's of value, you will build trust. And actually, very recently, we've done this with a service. As I said, we have this massive database and we use cataloging system. So we actually launched this service to the customers, and we do not charge anything. So basically, anyone comes to our site, they can identify their antiques. Any homeware that we sell, they can upload a picture and identify, and it's a semi-automatic process that runs against our database. So we opened our core product as a secret product. We gave this to use for free to a really, really wide audience. So immediately what we've seen is people started taking us really, really seriously as an authority. And they're really using it and sort of mass using it. I'm not saying that these people will immediately become our customers, but that actually builds trust. We're not charging anything. We're just we're giving out free advice, but it's a consistent advice that they cannot get anywhere else in the same way for free on demand. So if you can do that, definitely that helps, because then the customer immediately understands you're not just after their dollar. I mean, it's really, really simple, to produce something nice and send an email, and pitch for a sale. It's a no-brainer, and usually it doesn't work. It will only work if you have a product that the customer needs right now and will need all the time. But you need to convince the customer to spend their dollar with you. So you need to make the journey as simple as possible. And part of that, and I think it's essential part of that, is building trust. Show that you're an authority, a very pleasant authority to deal with. You're not heavy-handed. You're not naff. You're trustworthy. The customer will come back to you.
Got it. Now, when you say building authority, I think there's a great advice, because like you're saying, if they can just find your product on Amazon or go to some big box retailer and buy it for cheaper, they'll just do that. But if you can add value by becoming an authority, then that is a very defensible position, and people or competitors are going to have a really hard time competing against you. So it sounds like for you, your approach is to spread education, right? You're giving people a tool to educate themselves. Does it come down to that? Does it come down to education as the way to establish yourself as an authority?
Absolutely. And that was at the core of our the whole idea of demystifying this market. And it's essential. I mean, it's an old beaten world, but disrupting this market because you need to know what you're buying in antiques. And if we can easily teach people, and very, very in a nice way, not a heavy way, educate the customer bit by bit, and give them as much education as they want, or as little as they want. It's really up to them. Yes, it's definitely about education.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Jacob Tomasina. So lavishshoestring.com, again, is the website. As we are coming into the holiday shopping season, how are you guys preparing? What are some plans that you have to prepare for this season, Black Friday, Cyber Monday? What are your plans?
Okay. Well, Tomasina is a merchandise, so she's peddling. She's lining up all the merchandise. But to make it really quick, it's really certain categories. We know we have a lot of experience from previous years what people are looking for, and these categories repeat themselves. So we are making sure that we have a wide choice in those categories. That's essential, both in styles and in price ranges. This is really the biggest thing. On the more mundane thing is logistics. Pretty soon we will see a spike in next day deliveries. Will be probably most December sales, and definitely all December sales will be next delivery days and sort of expedited, and we ship all around the world. So that will be, basically sleepless nights and a lot
Definitely, yeah, and lots of meat platters.
Yeah, a lot of couriers. So it's having enough products, the right products, and being prepared logistic-wise.
Great, that's great advice. Thank you both again so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
You're really welcome. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Here's a sneak peek for what's in store in the next Shopify Masters episode.
I will always start my day with some form of meditation and some form of exercise. So I already feel like I've accomplished something first thing in the morning.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial. Also, for this episode's show notes, head over to shopify.com/blog.